don't know for sure.
I was disgusted, and it's really like, I don't even know how someone like Anderson, I'm just disgusted with Anderson Cooper.
Well, and he knows better. So here we go.
What do you make of Cornel West's campaign?
I think Dr. West has an incredible history.
First of all, he's obviously an accomplished scholar, academic. He seems to be a very charming man. And he's also a menace to the threat of the continued constitutional order in the United States. Jill Stein, who's his campaign manager, is almost certainly an agent of the Russian government. If you don't believe me, somebody at home, Google photo, General Flynn, Vladimir Putin, Jill Stein.
I'm glad you brought up Jill Stein, because you know the counter argument here. Jill Stein's actually helping you with this run. And 7 years ago, when she was the Green Party candidate, Hillary Clinton's world blamed her in part for that loss. And Democrats are worried you're going to play that role this time around. So what do you say to people, to Democrats who are worried you'll tip the election for Donald Trump?
Ralph Nader in 2000, who got nearly 100,000 votes in Florida, state that delivered the presidency to George W. Bush by fewer than 600 ballots. And in the 2016 Green Party candidate, Jill Stein was accused of being a spoiler in several close states that Hillary Clinton narrowly lost.
And I wonder if part of the reason that Cornel West is running as a third party candidate and
does come from a wing of the party that Joe Biden has faced before in his efforts.
And I wonder if part of the reason that Cornel West is running as a third party candidate and those who support him want to pull from Biden.
You know the concern, certainly. I mean, you've been asked this question a million times from a lot of Democrats and Republicans against Trump, that a third-party candidate like yourself could siphon votes away from President Biden. David Axelrod recently tweeted saying in 2016, the Green Party played an outside role in the tipping the election to Donald Trump. Now with Cornel West as their likely nominee, they could easily do it again. Risky business.
He could peel away some Biden supporters on a Green Party ticket.
Yeah, so you're saying essentially you think that Democrats, well, not just Democrats, but that they have the wrong message. If you're looking at this, at the election, it comes down to the wire. You're polling at, say, 2 or 3% in key battleground states. What do you do? Do you ultimately back President Biden like you did in 2020? Or what would you do in that scenario, do you think?
I'm disgusted by the whole thing, all of it. And yet it is so perfectly expected. I wouldn't have expected any different. Shame on Anderson Cooper for not arguing back against totally wrong factual information when James Carville said that Jill Stein is an agent of Russia. Look it up. Any journalist would have said, yeah, no. So it's like nobody even pushes back on ridiculous narratives. But we know for a fact that the Jill Stein numbers are not what lost. And I'm going to say it right now ahead of time so that this can't come up in a few years. I, as somebody who would vote for Cornel West, if he were not on the ballot, still not voting for Joe. So I'm just putting that out there now. Like that president, our president, has ruined any chance of me voting for him by so many different things that he's done, that whether or not there was a third party would be irrelevant. So I want to, to me, it's ridiculous to blame a third party when I'm one of those people that I just wouldn't vote.
And I keep saying, if you're going to play this card, it's not going to work. In fact, it's only going to empower his presidential aspirations even more, even though he's not going to win. That's not the point. People want a new path. And there's a lot that could change in this particular election cycle as far as that's concerned. That is 5% for the Green Party on the national scale and makes them more viable due to federal matching funds, which would be huge. People are just tired of voting for the same old, same old. And the fact of the matter is, Joe is the president of the United States. He has the authority. They know what the people want, but it's not what the donors want. It's that simple. Corporate special interests own our government. This is not there's not some conspiracy here. There isn't some grand scheme as to why we can't have universal health care or a living wage or labor that is unimpeded by corporate power, or the fact that we have endless war, whether in Ukraine or Syria, or did we forget about Yemen? Can't even keep up. And that's just a few things. There's plenty more.
I do see that there's definitely some criticism about Cornel West regarding foreign policy and things like that. And my answer is that when someone is on the right side of history and is in things for the right reason, to care for people, and they're surrounding themselves with smart people, I don't need them to know every single thing about every single thing. I just don't. I don't need them to be right about every single thing. I don't need them to share my opinion on every single thing. I feel like we keep going over this. You want to be you want people with the right motives, with good judgment. That's it. That's what you want. And then everything else is we can work with.
There is going to continue to be an onslaught after Dr. West, but I just don't think it's going to work. I just don't think it's going to work. I think that this is going to have the opposite intended effect. They're trying to do the same thing with RFK. And obviously,
Bill, I think that, and both of those have problems for their own reasons. I mean, RFK, it's nature fact. He's a Kennedy, end of story. So there's a certain amount of Teflon that just exists on him. And as far as Cornel West, I love watching them squirm about him, because try as they may and try as they might, they have nothing on him. And it's going to drive them insane. See, RFK gives them sound bites of stuff that they can really go with that maybe will be disagreeable to people. But Cornel West is just too likable, too noted, and too smart. And I don't see how they're going to be able to have their way with him.
They're going to try. They're going to do their damn best in order to do that.
Yeah, they're going to call him all sorts of ridiculous names. They're going to say he's a socialist, he's a communist, he's a Marxist, he's whatever ist, fill in the blank. And the truth is, as soon as he opens his mouth and starts speaking, people love him. And not only, and the reality is that he does bring in a very sizable amount of Black community. That's a reality that might not normally be brought into the Green Party. So that is something that is very threatening to them as opposed to someone like Jill Stein or Howie Hawkins. Because I know people that have never even really heard anything about the Green Party that are very happy that Cornel West is running. And these are people in the Black community. So there is a threat to their victory that they think they're going to have. And I couldn't be more excited about that.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere, and they're going to have a very hard time. But the only thing that you can say is that the fact that they are panicking this hard, this early, only speaks to just how concerned they are with him siphoning votes away, supposedly. But to me, this isn't about siphoning votes. Joe is not getting those votes. No one is entitled to votes. I am still at a loss for words as to how that's even conceivable that people talk like this.
Yeah. And let me say this, screw people like David Axelrod and James Carville and these people. This is the disgusting consultant class aristocracy that has been running our entire party since the 80s. And it's really, guys, the 80s called, they want their politics back. Go back there. But when you have somebody like Carville sitting there like a friggin' unraveled, unhinged person saying that Cornel West is, and I quote, a menace and threat, yeah, the person who's out there talking about love for the least of these is the menace and threat to democracy. See, please keep putting James Carville on the air saying stuff like that. Please do that, because it just completely discredits them every step of the way. That's what I think. I find they look absurd going after Cornel West.
And this is the coup de grace as far as I'm concerned, because for those of you who don't know who Laurence Tribe is, he is somebody who has been the, I guess what you would call at-large, a law professor at Harvard. He's been there for a long time. This is a man who had aspirations of being on the Supreme Court. He did not get nominated by Clinton or Obama. He's still stewing about that to this day, as you can see by the flag and the...
I was going to say, he had me at the Ukrainian flag, so let's continue.
Here's a guy who has had every ish-lib take that you could possibly imagine for many, many years. Today, I believe, I could be wrong. I think I want to say he's like 80. I think he's 81. Okay. So to say that he's disconnected from reality would be an understatement. But then he goes off and writes something like this: third-party candidates like RFK Jr. So let's just start right there. RFK Jr., whether you like him or not, is running as a Democrat in the Democratic primary that you still want to pretend is not actually happening.
Well, that's how insane this is, that this sort of operative is actually trying to put it out there that RFK is a third-party candidate. He knows damn well that he's not. But it's like when you put that out there like that, it just lumps him in this category as a third-party candidate. Words have meaning. Continue.
Then I'll come back to Cornel less. And then he says, possibly Joe Manchin. Okay, first of all, possibly Joe Manchin. You're talking about another Democrat who President Biden.
But they're talking about that off the rails, no labels thing or whatever. I'm sorry, that
correct,
no labels.
But they're talking, but they're getting their panties in a bunch about a candidacy that hasn't happened, but they're still wondering if it might happen and never asking, well, how did we get to this point where something like this could possibly happen? Even though we all know that the goal here for the No Labels Party is really to stop any third party. The goal of the No Labels Party is to take votes away from Trump. That's their goal. So let's.
That's not how it's going to work, though. Actually,
no,
that's the thing. I think. See, Joe Manchin would pull more votes from Biden than Cornel West would. Because I am someone who, if I wasn't voting for Cornel West, then I wouldn't be voting for Joe. There are people that are more conservative Democrat people that either think Joe is like old and senile or whatever their reasons are, and they like Joe Manchin. I'm just saying, like, he's more of a spoiler to Joe than Cornel West is, I think.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.